I think I have finally cracked the code for a Masters of the Universe Major Motion Picture. Here's my idea. It's a fucking shit show. What you think you see, what you think you hear, that's what it's about. Mood and atmosphere. No, it's fucking garbage. It's garbage. Mood and atmosphere. Now that I really like. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I want to see. Hey folks, how you doing? Dave McRae here. Yes, that's right. In this video, I want to share with you my concept idea for a major motion picture for Masters of the Universe, because I believe I have cracked the code. Now, before I do, I want to preface this by saying I'm a big Masters of the Universe fan. I was born in 1979, so I will be 40 this year. So I was a young boy growing up through the 80s, and I think you'd be hard-pressed to find a guy my age, or maybe even in and around my age, who didn't grow up through the 1980s who was not a big fan of He-Man. But I'm a fan of the 1980s cartoon and its toys. I understand that since then, there's been another animated film, and there's been comics and things like that, and the mythology of He-Man and the canon of He-Man has grown even more to become more rich and more fulfilled. Most of it I'm not too familiar with, so I've been sort of trying to brush up on my He-Man mythology a little bit over the last couple of days before doing this video. But certainly, when you're doing a movie, you can't please everybody, and you're going to have to take some creative liberties and pick and choose what you want in here. And then if the movie's successful, you might be able to include more things as you go along, but you certainly don't want to throw everything in all at once because you don't want it to be convoluted and like, what the fuck is this, right? So now in 1987, we had the release of the movie, Masters of the Universe, the movie, which starred Dolph Lundgren and Frank Langella. I'm laughing because of Dolph Lundgren. Listen, Frank Langella was amazing in that film. He's a great actor, period. What he brought to Skeletor was awesome. He was a great villain in a shitty movie. Dolph Lundgren was a fucking shit show. And I like the guy. He's a very intelligent guy. He's got degrees from MIT in chemical engineering, I think, or something to that effect. We all love him, of course, as Ivan Drago. Of course, he didn't really say much. But I like him. But he was a fucking shit show in that movie. He had no passion, no personality, no charisma. His acting was atrocious. He was like a cardboard cutout just standing off in the corner. Oh, the boy! Like, somebody tell him how to say it, please. The movie couldn't be what it should have been because of budgetary reasons. And of course, they replaced Orko with Wildor, I think it was, or Gwildor or something like that. And of course, most of the movie took place on on Earth as opposed to Eternia. So, you know, it's just, it wasn't what it needed to be. I have it in my collection for nostalgic reasons, but even in 1987, when I was 8 years old, I kind of knew that this wasn't what it needed to be. So anyway, over the years, essentially doing another Masters of the Universe movie has been in development hell for years, primarily the last 10 or 15 years. And as of recently, of course, we've had a lot of writers try to pitch their ideas and scripts and drafts and treatment. Writers have come and gone, directors have come and gone, producers have come and gone. Nobody, for a variety of reasons, seems to be satisfied with the direction of Masters of the Universe. Well, I am here to tell you that I have cracked the code in what I think it needs to be. So let's get started. Okay. Well, the first thing I asked myself when thinking about this was, what is Masters of the Universe? At the end of the day, what is Masters of the Universe about? What is it about? Like, strip it all away. Strip everything away right down to its core. What is it about? Really? Really? Good versus evil. Evil versus good. That's what it's about. When you strip it all away, where Masters of the Universe is buck naked, that's what it's about. A while ago, somebody said to me online that a Masters of the Universe movie needs to be like Star Wars meets Lord of the Rings. And I was like, that's not a bad analogy. And to a certain extent, that's true. Because when you think of Lord of the Rings, you think, of course, the horses and the knights and the swords and the castles and the visuals and stuff. And when you think of Star Wars, you think of the wizardry, as you do Lord of the Rings, but the magic and the technology and the spaceships and it's not a bad analogy. And then I started to think about the original Star Wars from 1977 and how George Lucas designed that movie, for the most part, to be a standalone film. When that movie came out in 1977, if you went to the theater to see that, during the opening crawl, there was no Episode 4, A New Hope. That was not part of the movie until a few years later during its re-release, when they knew they were doing an Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. But if you saw that movie in the theater in 1977, it did not say Episode 4, A New Hope. It's just the opening crawl began. Okay? Lucas had no idea if that movie was going to be successful. I mean, dogs flying spaceships, right? You know, like, what the fuck, right? He had no idea. So that movie, in and of itself, acts like a standalone film. You can watch A New Hope, and it has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and even Luke has his own mini hero's journey even within that movie. Now, as the series went on over Empire and Return of the Jedi, he had more of the traditional hero's journey arc over the 3 acts, because the 3 movies began to act as acts themselves. But you can watch that first movie and be like, yeah, I mean, it can stand on its own. At the end of the movie, the Empire is defeated, Vader flies off into the distance, never to be seen again, let's say, and the heroes get their medals. Chewie should have got a medal, I don't know why he didn't. And hey, bada boom, bada bing. That's what Masters of the Universe needs to do. But the thing that Lucas did with the Star Wars movie was that he left a little door open at the end just in case it was successful, and that he was given the opportunity to create the rest of his story, the ideas that he had. And what was that little door that was open? Darth Vader flying off into the distance. Well, the same thing needs to be done with Masters of the Universe. Okay, the same approach needs to be done with Masters of the Universe, because it is a big risk. It's way past its due date. There's no telling if this movie is going to be successful now. Nobody gives, I mean, there are, I don't have any kids, but if I did have kids, they're not into Masters. Very few kids today give a fuck about He-Man and Masters of the Universe, and a lot of them don't even know about it, okay? So you're definitely appealing to our generation in the hopes that through us, we will then get the younger generation on board, but there's no telling how well that this is going to do. So even though the He-Man mythology is rich and dripping with so much potential, you don't want to put the cart before the horse. So you want to create a movie that can act like a standalone film in its own right, with a little door at the end that's open for the potential for more. Because there's no doubt there is huge fucking potential with a property like Masters of the Universe if it's done right. So when I thought about those two things, I came into my home studio here and I sat down and I wrote sort of a mini kind of treatment. Okay, now I'm going to read it to you, and I'm going to stop at certain points to sort of illustrate to you what I'm talking about and paint that picture so you can picture it in your own mind. But this is what needs to be done. This is a great way to start a Masters of the Universe major motion picture, following the formula of what George Lucas did, not copying A New Hope. I'm just saying understanding the formula of what works and what doesn't based on what we're dealing with, based on dealing with a similar property in terms of the type of movie that Masters of the Universe is and what we're up against in terms of its value in the world today. So here we go. Okay, let me read this to you. All right. It is a dark time for Eternia, a large bluish-reddish planet that lies at the very center of the universe. Once a peaceful and prosperous world, it is now in the throes of war, a war that could destroy the planet and have dire consequences for the rest of the universe. The evil sorcerer Skeletor, the most powerful sorcerer that has ever lived, has risen from the dark regions and hemisphere of the planet. Skeletor, along with his evil forces of beasts, monsters, and magic, are on the verge of moving towards the light hemisphere of the planet, the last remaining section not under his rule. Skeletor believes that this is where the other half of the Power Sword resides. A mystical, magical, large, and powerful sword that has been said to give the would-be guardian of Eternia unprecedented power to protect the planet from those who dare to destroy it. Skeletor believes that the power bestowed in this sword can be used for his own doings when it is brought together and hitched to the other half that is currently hilted to his back, and that obtaining this power would give him ultimate control over Eternia, preventing the would-be guardian from ever rising. Okay, This is how the film needs to open, all right? This is your jumping off point. This is your starting point. The film opens on the planet of Eternia in the dark hemisphere. The land is dark, bleak, and ominous, with a purpley sky, a dark purpley sky, kind of like the cartoon. War is raging in the distance. Flashes of light can be seen on the horizon. Laser blasts, explosions, right? You as an audience member going, what the fuck is going on over there? It's so important that the opening of this movie is just right away. You just thrust the audience in right away. Very much like what they did at the beginning of Star Wars, right? The very first movie, okay? You don't give your audience time to breathe. You want to introduce the big baddie right away. Because Skeletor, and I don't say this lightly, the potential of Skeletor to become one of the greatest villains in cinematic history is ridiculous. I'm not saying he's going to. I'm saying the potential is there. That if it's crafted right and taken and nurtured with the right care, oh my God. Oh my God. Now, really at the end of the day, it's the audience that will determine that, but the potential is there. Potential is there. So you want to introduce the big baddies and the bad guys first, okay? That's what you want to do. Evil forces are seen entering this large rock-like structure. It's not Castle Grayskull, okay, but it's some sort of big, large rock-like structure. And you see like monsters and henchmen and, but it's a very gritty looking film, right? Very grounded, very authentic. And you see these beasts and these monsters firing lasers and picking up, these what we perceive to be good guys and tossing them aside, and there's carnage and fire and shit. It's like, what the fuck is going on? And they're pushing these good guys further and further into like this rock-like base kind of thing, or whatever it is. And they're pushing them in there, and they're trying to defend themselves, but they can't. They're just overwhelmed. These beasts and these monsters are just too powerful. These evil forces, it's too overwhelming. And then finally it gets to a point where there's this one little defender who's left, and he's cowering in the corner, and the fire and the carnage seems to sort of stop a little bit so we can kind of hear what's going on in this scene. And this large man, or kind of man, hybrid of a man, walks over, and it's Trapjaw. If you guys are familiar with Masters of the Universe, you'll know who I'm talking about when I say Trapjaw. But you look at him, and it's so like, it's all the makeup that they've done and the practical effects that they're using with visual effects, with computer generated imagery is just awesome. And you see him, and he's standing there, and he's got this presence, and he lifts up his arm, right? And he puts on like this drill kind of thing, and he puts it on, and you're like, oh, fuck, that's Trapjaw. But we're looking up at him, so he's got kind of this presence, and this defender's like, he thinks this is it. He's a goner. And all of a sudden it's like, like, it's like, shit, it's a drill. Or he's got like this drill, and he's putting it up on his face, right? This one little defender's face, and he's like, he wants to toy him. He's fucking with him, right? It's like, shit. And then all of a sudden, from way off in the distance, you hear this ominous roar. Like this lion/tiger, this roar. This, like just real, like, guttural kind of roar. And everything stops. Even Trapjaw stops, right? And all the henchmen and the monsters and the beasts and the soldiers are kind of they just take pause for a moment, right? And there's this one little measly, good guy that's left, and he's like... And then all of a sudden, people stand at attention a little bit. And into this room walks this just awesome looking Black Panther with this armored sort of helmet on its head with horns out of it, okay? And this panther, and the animation on this panther, because you'd have to do it with animation. You obviously can't have a real panther because they're not big enough. And yeah, try doing that with a real panther. But the animation is hyper realistic. So we're talking Jungle Book, we're talking The Lion King, we're talking Avatar. Like, we're talking top notch pro shit that you look at that and go, oh yeah, I buy that's a fucking panther. Like, that looks legit. Like, not shitty CGI. Okay, no, we're talking state of the art. It's like, wow. And you can tell that there's somebody that has mounted the panther. They are on its back, and it's a big, large figure. Okay, it's like, whoa, who the fuck is this? But you can't see them clearly because they're in like this hooded cloak with like this cape kind of thing. But you can see the legs and the muscular legs that are like on either side of the panther, right? And it's that blue skin. And it's like, fuck, is that Skeletor? It's gotta be Skeletor. It's gotta be, right? And you can see him and he's sitting there and you can see the shoulders. You can almost sense the weight of this individual. Now, I'm not saying that he's like a bodybuilder like this, not like the 1980s toys or something you'd see at like, the Arnold Classic. But clearly this is a big man, okay? Or a big sorcerer, a big creature, whatever he is, right? This is a big individual. Not like this where he's got to go like this, through doors, but this is a big dude. This is a big fucking dude. And you can see the muscles in his legs, right? And it's like people are just kind of standing there like shit. And there's this music, this theme, which is just unbelievable. The theme is so powerful. It's immediately identifiable. It's not just this run-of-the-mill, epic theme. No. It's the kind of theme that you run out to buy on CD, that you download digitally, that you listen to, that you go, fuck, yes, it's Skeletor's theme. Whatever that is, it's this booming theme that's got so many, you sit there and you go, wow, like it feels like something ominous with presence, but it's not cheesy. It's really powerful. And everybody's just standing there and he makes this entrance and you can see the glowing eyes of the panther. And it's like, wow. And then the panther walks closer to Trapjaw, where Trapjaw is right now. We first thought Trapjaw was really cool, but now it's like this dude's upstaging him, And he comes over and the panther gets as close as he can to this little guy who's cowering in the corner with Trapjaw there. And you see Trapjaw sort of kind of go like this a little bit. And this figure, dismounts off of the Black Panther and you can feel the weight as he gets off and he gets onto the ground like this and you can see the man and he's there and he's huddling the corner. He's like, Skeletor, don't, Skeletor. And now it's a low angle shot, almost from the little cowering guy's perspective. And he's looking up and you see this large figure, but you don't see, all you see is the silhouette. Okay, you just see the silhouette and the hooded figure, and Trapjaw is sort of off to the side. And you can clearly tell that we thought Trapjaw was big, and he is big. He's a big dude. But you can tell, wow, this man is magnificently magnetic in his presence. It's like, holy shit. Like, this is great. This is fucking awesome, right? Boom! Impact that audience, right? And then you hear what we perceive, well, this has got to be Skeletor. You hear him speak. Now, I don't know what voice he's going to have yet. I don't necessarily believe the voice from the cartoon, the 80s cartoon. Hey, man. I don't necessarily think that's the right creative direction to go, but it's definitely a voice that has presence, that has gravitas, that has impact, but isn't, Gadget. It's not Dr. Claw from Inspector Gadget, but certainly when you hear him speak, you're like, oh, that's so cool. Like, that's so cool, right? So I'm not quite sure what that is yet. So I'm not going to do my interpretation or imitation of that here because I got to think more about that. But that is sort of the direction that I think they need to go. Presence in something that you hear, you go, wow, that's really cool. That's scary. Okay. And all you hear him say, you don't see him. You don't see the skull. It's a black, you just see the hood, right? And he's standing there looking down at the camera and he says, where is it? And the cowering man is stammering in the corner trying to speak. And he's like, I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know. And then he sort of, you see Skeletor kind of go like this a little bit, and Trapjaw steps forward and goes, and it's coming at the screen. It's like, oh, fuck, he's gonna fuck this guy up. And during the whole, you hear Skeletor's voice go, where is it? You know what I mean? It's like, holy fuck. And then you see the little guy going, okay, I'm sorry, I'll tell you anything, please just spare my life, please, I'll tell you anything, please. And Trapjaw goes, like this, and you see the onlookers of the beasts, and the henchmen, they're watching. Like, you can tell that even his own forces are petrified, of this man or this figure, this whoever he is, whatever he is. They are petrified of him in the same ways that the evil forces and the stormtroopers and the henchmen and the you know, whatever, are petrified of Darth Vader. They are petrified of Skeletor because they know that he can destroy them like that. And he's this large lurking figure. So this lonely little survivor is like, I'll tell you, it's in the kingdom. It's at the kingdom. It's in the light hemisphere. It's where it is. It's been there the whole time. Please let me go. I promise, but I won't tell anybody. I won't tell them you're coming. I won't say anything. Please. And he's saying this, right? And then you hear Skeletor say, kill him. And the guy's like, what? You said you would let me go. You said you would let me go. You said you would let me go. And Skeletor is walking away at this point, and you just see the back of him, right? Still in shadow. And he's walking away. He's like, you said you would let me go. And Trapjaw's like, so you said you would let me go. And Skeletor turns around at the camera, and we see his face, the skull, still kind of in shadow, but we can see it in the glowing eyes. And he just says to the camera, I lied. You know what I mean? And it's like, no! It's like, fuck! And it just cuts to black, and the Masters of the Universe logo comes on the screen, fades onto the screen, and it's like, fuck! Holy shit! And you can even hear, like, in the distance, like, wow, like that's intense. And it's taking it seriously. It's taking it very serious, right? It's like, wow, this is really awesome. Like, this movie, no doubt, would be at the very least more than likely PG-13. Absolutely. I mean, there's not going to be F-bombs dropped. There's not going to be blood or anything, but you know, it's going to be intense, like some of the more intense moments of maybe some of the Marvel films where it's really intense. It's taking itself very seriously, but it's like, wow, like holy shit. And that Masters of the Universe logo is on the screen, and you hear that Skeletor theme playing over, and it's like, whoa. And then it just kind of, maybe it fades out or whatever it is, and everything goes quiet. It's very quiet. And then we open up on what looks like, you can tell, it's a very castle-like window. And it's a beautiful day outside, and it's quiet. And in the window, in the foreground, is a silhouette, and it's the back of King Randor. We just see his back. He's in complete silhouette, staring off out into the beautiful day, because obviously the palace is in the light hemisphere, the only part of the planet that is not yet ruled by Skeletor. And he's standing there, and you see this other individual enter frame, silhouetted as well, and says, and you hear him say to the king, I'm sorry, Your Highness. No one made it. And the king doesn't say anything. He just turns and nods his head like this. And the servant, or whoever he was, leaves. And the king looks for a moment and then walks away from the window. And the window, and then the camera then moves towards the window, goes out the window into the beautiful day, into the beautiful part of Eternia and the palace. And it starts moving around, and you can see a lot of the happy children, and you can see a lot of the people of the palace, and the camera starts swooping around. It's more positive now, right? We've done that contrast, so things are a little more positive now, okay? And we start swooping around, and we're introduced to the palace this way, and we can go through the palace and see certain things and children playing, and we get a real sense of sort of what this part of Eternia and what the palace is like, okay? What Eternos is like. And then eventually we lift up over the palace, and we go off into the fields that are sort of on the outskirts of the palace. And then the camera swoops down, and we swoop to this young man, early 20s, sitting against a tree, and he's eating, and he's by himself. You know, he's a good-looking guy. He's muscular. He's not huge or anything like that, but he's in good shape, and he's looking at the nature around him, and he's just enjoying his time eating lunch or having lunch or taking a break from whatever it is that he was doing. This is Adam. This is Prince Adam, okay? So Prince Adam is the son of King Randor, king of Eternia. And Prince Adam is quiet, relatively shy, early 20s, young man. He's tall. He's about 6'2", 6'3", muscular-ish, but not overly so. He's well proportioned. He has dirty blonde hair and an unfortunate stammer, okay? A stutter. Not ridiculous, but a little bit of one that affects his confidence with his family and the people around him. He works on the farm for his father and is well-behaved, well-mannered, but rarely taken seriously among his peers because of his introverted shyness and lack of confidence. He believes he is capable of something more in life and wants to break free of the monotony of his current life circumstances. He's not sure if he wants to be the king, even though he is next in line, and he is not allowed to partake in the king's army to fight Skeletor because of his eventual fate to be king. They need him around in case something happens to King Randor. Well, Prince Adam is supposed to be king, right? But he is naturally curious about the stories and the war that surround him. When Adam gets wind of the stories of the Power Sword, his natural curiosity takes over and wonders where it's being kept, where it actually is being kept. So throughout the movie, and again, I don't have the nitty-gritty details fleshed out, but throughout the movie, Prince Adam embarks on this journey to find the elusive other half of the Power Sword, the other half that Skeletor is looking for, right? And he's very curious about it, okay? And it's almost like something is calling to him. Like he can't quite intellectualize why he wants to go on this journey. He believes that, it's like, I just want to get it, I want to go on this adventure. I want to see if I can find it. Wow, it sounds so amazing, right? And it's almost like it's almost like he knows, but he doesn't know. Do you know what I mean? He thinks he wants to go on this adventure because he's sick and tired of the monotony and the mundane of his life as a prince, okay? He's next in line to the throne, so the palace is very protective of him. He wanted to join the army and the group to fight Skeletor, but they wouldn't allow him to do it because he's next in line to the throne. So it's like there's just, he feels like he needs this sense of adventure. And his best friend, one of his best friends, Stratos, who's part of the bird people that live in the Mystic Mountains, agrees to go along with him. Now, Stratos is a little bit older and he feels a little protective of Prince Adam. But Prince Adam looks up to Stratos because he's quite wise and he's got those bird-like sensibilities and he can fly. And, he's like, oh, you have this sense of adventure about you. I want to do that. I want to go on something. So Stratos is a little trepidatious about this, but he's like, well, I will look out for him. But the king and the palace don't know about this adventure. They've kept it from the king. They've kept it from the palace because they would not approve of this at all. They also convinced Teela, who is Man-at-Arms' daughter, to go along with them as well. And Teela is in a similar position. She feels sort of strapped down because of her father as the head of the guards, right? And even though she's powerful and she can handle her own in her own right, she does feel a little sort of tied to the palace and not being able to kind of get out from under her father's shadow because her father is very protective of her and all that kind of stuff. And she thinks this sense of adventure is really cool. But none of them have, neither of them, I should say, have any idea that Prince Adam is about to become who he is, that is his destiny, that is his calling. But Prince Adam, on a subconscious level, kind of feels that, but he doesn't know how to intellectualize that, if you know what I mean. And he also convinces Orko to come along as well, and Cringer, who will eventually become Battle Cat. Now, Cringer is not the same kind of Cringer that he is in the 1980s cartoon. Okay, he's not, oh, geez, Adam, what are you doing? He's not like that at all, okay? He's a little apprehensive, and you can tell that. He doesn't speak either, okay? And you can tell that he's a little apprehensive, but he's not that kind of a Cringer, okay? But again, it's the hyper-realistic animation. He looks spec-fucking-tacular. And he goes along with Prince Adam because he's Prince Adam's cat, right? But he's sort of like taken on that sort of little apprehensive kind of personality that Prince Adam has, right? But he's a his fate and his destiny is to become Battle Cat. Okay, and of course Cringer has no idea about that. So these are the group that go along on this journey to try and find the other half of this power sword. And it's not that that other characters that are really well known in the Masters of the Universe on the good team don't come to be in this film. Maybe they show up later, which I'll get to. But definitely this is maybe the group that goes on this adventure. And maybe there's even this point, during their journey to find the power sword and all the self-discovery and things that go on through that they come across Skeletor. They actually meet Skeletor and his henchmen and his evil forces. And of course, maybe Prince Adam, tries to go up against him or whatever. And Skeletor just basically kicks the crap out of him and shoos him away. Or who's this kid? Oh, you're from the palace. Get the hell out of here. Or maybe they take Teela hostage as well, right? And maybe Prince Adam and Orko and Cringer and Stratos are left to, they're just no match at this point, right? Because we're in the beginning stages of finding out who He-Man is. Prince Adam doesn't even know that he's about to become He-Man, that his destiny, his fate is to become the most powerful man in the universe. Stratos doesn't know that he's going to be a part of all that. Neither does Cringer, neither does Teela really at the end of the day, right? Do you know what I mean? But maybe there is a run-in somewhere where, that they have with Skeletor, so that when what I'm about to say happens in just a few moments, there's that, oh shit, kind of thing, right? So eventually, towards the end of the second act, on the verge of beginning the third act, Adam and Teela and Cringer and Orko and Stratos find themselves in Castle Grayskull, because that's actually where the other half of the power sword is being kept. That's actually where it is, okay? And it's not being kept in the palace like the guy at the beginning of the movie said. He lied. So I guess he deserved to be killed. But he lied because he didn't want to, tell them where it actually is being kept, okay? So I don't know how it all transpires, but eventually, before Skeletor can actually get into Castle Grayskull to destroy the sorceress and get his hands on the other half of the power sword and bring his sword and the other half together as one and to have that's it. It's over. They know he cannot find that other half, okay? They know that. And all through the movie, King Randor doesn't believe that Prince Adam is the future guardian of Eternia. He doesn't believe that because they believe that he's going to come in the form of something else. And we can get into all that at some other point, but they don't believe that it's actually his own son that's going to become the guardian, that's going to become He-Man, protector of Eternia, the most powerful man in the universe. And even Prince Adam doesn't know that. He just is out on an adventure because he's sick of his life. He's sick of the structure of his life because he believes that there's something more for him. So he sort of stumbles upon this accidentally. So when they're in the catacombs and the passageways of Castle Grayskull and they come across this sword, he's the one that picks it up. And it's almost like the sword is calling to him. That is his fate. That is his destiny, is to become one with this sword. So, I'm not quite sure how the nitty-gritty details of all that come together yet, but I do know eventually Skeletor and his evil forces are upon Castle Grayskull. It's almost like the beginning of the third act, right? This is it. He knows that other half of the power sword is in there somewhere, and he is ready. And fuck, is he magnificent. He just is magnificent to look at. And standing there beside Skeletor is Trapjaw and Beastman, right? Beastman looks fucking magnificent. He's a big beast of a man, essentially, right? And even Evil-Lyn is there as well. And these, traditional Skeletor baddies, they play big roles in this movie. Okay, I know I haven't talked about them at length here, but again, this is the blueprint concept, okay? But definitely they're in the film. And maybe Merman is there as well, right? He plays a big role in terms of the bad guys as well, okay? Like you have your traditional staples, okay? Your absolute staples for sure. And then what ends up happening is all the remaining troops from the palace, led by Man-at-Arms, come to Castle Grayskull to defend it. But this is essentially a suicide mission. They know they're no match for Skeletor. Everybody knows that. That's the word around Eternos and the palace, and even King Randor is like, fuck, this is like... It's a very somber mood. They know this, but they've got to do whatever they can. They have enough troops and enough power that they might be able to keep Skeletor at bay. But at the end of the day, Skeletor and his magic and his beasts and his power and his troops and his evil forces are gonna run through them, but they have to do something, and nobody knows where Prince Adam is. King Randor's, where's my son? Where's Prince Adam during this, horrible time? Where's the prince? My God, if something happens, he's the next in line. What's gonna happen to me? It's just absolute chaos, okay? And then all of a sudden, everybody is taking their positions, okay? And they're ready to fight Skeletor, and then, all of a sudden, the drawbridge from Castle Grayskull begins to come down. It comes down with a thunder, right? Very slowly, but hits the ground with a thunder because it's very heavy. And standing at the mouth of Castle Grayskull, illuminated in a little bit of a silhouette from the glow inside of the castle, is Prince Adam. And he's standing there. And Man-at-Arms recognizes Prince Adam. And it's like, Adam! Adam! It's like, is that you? And everybody, all the troops are like, is that the prince? That's the prince. My God, that's the prince, right? And even Skeletor is like, didn't I kick that kid's ass? I mean, he doesn't actually say that, but that's what he's thinking. That's what everybody's kind of like, wait a minute, I recognize that kid. But he also recognizes the power sword in Adam's right hand, because Adam is standing there and he's got the power sword. He's got the sword in his hand. And then all of a sudden, this energy, this electricity begins to engulf the sword, and it begins to absorb Adam, and you can see it going up his arm. And everyone's like, what is going on here? Like, Adam, get away from there. Like, they think something bad is happening to him, right? But he knows now. He knows he's going with it. This is it. And he raises the sword to the sky, and this crescendo of music is building. And there he is. He's standing there. What a magnificent screen capture that would be. He's standing there, and all of a sudden he says, by the power of Grayskull, I have the power! And he says it, and it's like, oh my God, this is the moment we've been waiting for! And lightning comes firing down from the sky, illuminating Castle Grayskull in silhouette, and hitting the sword, and absorbing Adam with all this energy, and he starts to change. You can see him changing. It's this spectacle, this all around him, and he's changing, and he's becoming He-Man. He's becoming He-Man. And after a few moments of this spectacle, this magic, all of a sudden it just stops and everything is quiet. And standing there in the mouth of Castle Grayskull is He-Man, the most powerful man in the universe. Just when you think Skeletor is about to take control of Castle Grayskull, and even he thinks, just as I am about to get to the finish line, this man stands in my way. And it's not the same actor who portrays Prince Adam. Okay, it's not the same actor, but it's a similar look that you could look at this actor and go, yeah, I buy that is the same guy. I could totally buy that this is the same guy as Prince Adam, but it's not, because He-Man has to be bigger with bigger muscles. I don't mean bodybuilder like this, where he's got to walk through doors like that. He's bigger, okay? And he's got a deeper voice, okay? And the reason why he's got a deeper voice, not that Adam is like, hey man, what's going on? It's not like the contrast like the cartoon, but he's got to have a deeper voice because he's got to command presence. He's got to command authority. He has to command respect. He has to have that charisma and that presence and essence about him. So not James Earl Jones deep, but he's got a nice, clear voice. He is He-Man. Do you know what I mean? And he's there, and he's powerful, and he looks like He-Man. He's dressed like the He-Man we know and love. And it's like, fuck, this is amazing. Like Dolph Lundgren, get the fuck out of here kind of thing. And there he is, and Skeletor takes that staff of his, and he points it right at He-Man. And he says, I want that sword. Attack! Or whatever, right? And all of a sudden it's this all-out war, and everybody starts attacking, and all the troops, Man-at-Arms troops, and they start firing, and He-Man starts just going through everybody. He's a magnificent sight to see. He is barreling through everybody to the point where the troops start to begin to lay off, and it's like, holy fucking shit. He's picking up things and tossing them and picking up boulders and throwing them over. It's magnificent. magnificent to watch. And the sword is like got this electricity through it or something. Not so much to the point where it looks like the sword is like a lightsaber. I don't mean that, but you can tell that there's something special about it. Okay, but it's definitely steel, and you can hear the clink, clink, clink. Like you can definitely hear that shit. Okay, but that's what ends up happening, and they push everybody back, right? So much so that He-Man is just far too powerful, and Skeletor knows this. Skeletor looks at He-Man and is like, "This is different. Who the fuck is this? This is the man I've been afraid of. Not afraid of literally, but the man I've been anticipating that could rise. This is what we were trying to avoid by attacking Castle Grayskull, and we were just too late because now he has arrived. Oh my God, what now?" So even Skeletor recognizes that they have to retreat and go back and regroup a bit, but he's not happy about it. He's pissed, very pissed. So after this epic battle that ends the second act and begins the third act, okay, He-Man and Stratos and Teela and Man-at-Arms and Orko and Cringer, who's not yet Battle-Cat. He's not yet Battle-Cat, okay? He's there and everything's kind of quiet and they've been pushed back sort of, back into the darker hemisphere. Okay. And it's like, what do we do now? And everybody's looking at He-Man and they're in awe and they can't believe this. And then the sorceress comes out from Castle Grayskull and she gives some exposition about what's happened and what's going on and what to expect with He-Man and who He-Man is, that he's actually Prince Adam, but that this is his destiny. This is his fate. He is the guardian we've been waiting for. He is the protector that Eternia has been waiting for, the hope that we've been waiting for. It's him. It's been him all along, and Man-at-Arms knows this. So Man-at-Arms knows, Teela knows because she was there, Stratos knows, Orko knows, and Cringer knows, and some of obviously the troops know, but nobody else knows, okay? Like the king doesn't know, his father does not know yet. So what ends up happening is that Skeletor, they know that Skeletor is going to come back again. They know it's only a matter of time. He's gone back to regroup and come back with even more firepower and even more intensity that may prove to be very difficult even for He-Man. So they go back to the palace, and that's when you're introduced, because they are preparing now for an even bigger epic battle that will bring the third act to an epic climax. And that's when you're introduced to people like maybe Buzz-Off or Ram Man, right? Or, some other people that you're like, oh, those are staples. Oh, awesome shit. And they start to get into the third, like they start to now come forward, and they are a part of this assault that they're going to take to Skeletor, because they have to take it to him. They can't wait for Skeletor to come to Castle Grayskull again. They have to take the fight to him. They know that is probably their only chance of defeating him, maybe once and for all. So the third act takes place at Snake Mountain. And Snake Mountain looks magnificent. There's like this lava fall that's coming off of Snake Mountain. Okay, like it looks like a waterfall, but it's lava, and it drips into this lava river that's below, this twisty, turny sort of, river that goes in and around Snake Mountain, through Snake Mountain as well. Just awesome, an absolute spectacle. Okay, and Man-at-Arms leads all of the remaining palace's troops, and He-Man leads all of the, staples that we know and love, like Stratos and Ram Man and Teela and Buzz-Off, and I'm just trying to think of all these good guy characters. Whatever you can think of, he's leading them, okay? And they come upon Snake Mountain, because like I said, they know they got to take the battle to him. But Skeletor is ready, and he's ready with all his staples: your Trapjaws, your Mermans, your Beastmans, your Evil-Lyns, your Stinkor, whatever it is. Okay, he's ready, and his forces as well. And an epic battle ensues, and He-Man is trying to cut through the carnage because he wants Skeletor. He wants Skeletor, and Skeletor wants He-Man. Okay, so what ends up happening is the final epic battle between He-Man and Skeletor takes place on like this suspension bridge that is hooked between Snake Mountain and like this other side of this rock and this canyon kind of thing. But below is this, it's like 1,000 feet. It's really far. But at the bottom is this big lava river that just goes winding all around. But you can't really see it because of the fog that surrounds this suspension bridge. and basically surrounds most of Snake Mountain, okay? And it's like this thick fog that's there, but on this suspension bridge, against this dark purpley kind of sky at night, He-Man and Skeletor are battling, and they're just clanking swords, and you can see it, and it looks magnificent. These two titans, these two gladiators are just clanking swords, and the choreography is unbelievable. And it literally looks like He-Man and Skeletor. Like, it's like, holy shit, I've been waiting 40 years to see this. Like, it's amazing. And the choreography, like I said, is unbelievable. And the quips and maybe the lines that He-Man and Skeletor are throwing back at each other are like, oh yeah, like this is awesome, right? And then eventually, He-Man gets the upper hand, but you can definitely see the power in Skeletor, but you can see the power in He-Man, and He-Man gets that upper hand to the point where we end up in like a cliffhanger Sylvester Stallone kind of situation where Skeletor is hanging on. He's hanging on, and He-Man is hanging on to his arm, right? And Skeletor is hanging on to He-Man's arm. And maybe there's like this epic drone shot, where you can see Skeletor hanging on. It's like, what the fuck's going to happen? And maybe there's like an exchange, right? And He-Man is looking down at Skeletor, and Skeletor is looking up at He-Man, and he sort of smiles a bit, as if Skeletor knows something that He-Man doesn't, as if there's something he knows. There's like this little smirk, this little grin, or whatever the case is, and He-Man's kind of like, what the fuck, right? And Skeletor, all of a sudden, he lets go. He lets go, and you see him falling. You see him falling, and like the drone shot, you catch him falling, and he falls through the fog into nothing. We don't see what happened to him. We don't hear him fall or land, obviously, right? But we can kind of see the orangey glow from the lava beneath the fog way in the distance. So we're left to assume that he fell to his death in the lava, perhaps, which is very poetic and ironic against the backdrop of Snake Mountain, which is fucking epic. But He-Man's not so sure. You can see that he's not quite sure. He's not 100% sure. And he's left there sort of out of breath, beaten, worn, sweaty, dirty. You can see the sweat on his face. You can see the grit, the dirt in his pores, and he's there. And he's not, you can tell he's happy that this has happened, but he's not quite sure, right? And you can hear like, the wind from the canyon, Just awesome shit. And then, it dissolves, right? The picture dissolves into He-Man walking back to find the others. And he meets up with Teela or Man-at-Arms, and he finds out through a little bit of exposition that most of Skeletor's, crew and forces and beasts have ran off, or they've killed like a ton. They've also killed a ton as well. But some staples have sort of ran off, or Evil-Lyn has taken some and sort of, dematerialized into another dimension, and they don't know what happened to them or what the fuck is going on, right? But it's safe to say that at this moment, they have won that battle, that Skeletor's crew has been depleted, and they're just like, it's like, yeah, like there's nothing here. And Skeletor has fallen essentially to his death. At least that's what most people think. But He-Man is not so sure. He-Man's not so sure. And that's how the movie ends. It ends back, at the palace in Eternos. And maybe, the king is so thankful, and there's a celebration, and it's like, we've done it. But you can tell that He-Man's not so sure. There's something there. There's something, he's not convinced. But definitely the movie, the movie ends having a complete beginning, middle, and an end, and you can watch it as a one-off. You absolutely can. But maybe the movie ends, there's two ideas I have. Maybe it ends with Cringer walking into sort of the room, and he sees the power sword, and maybe it's kind of like, he walks over to it, and it's kind of like symbolizing that, we're gonna get Battle Cat, you know what I mean? Or whatever it is, right? Or maybe the movie ends with a shot of Snake Mountain, and in the eye of the snake in Snake Mountain, it just kind of glows red for a minute. And it's like, oh shit, he's still alive, right? Like fucking shit's gonna go down. But that's how it ends. It ends, very ambiguous with that door left open, but it does have a complete beginning, middle, and an end. Anyways, folks, my name's Dave McRae. Comment below and let me know your thoughts. If you want to follow me on Facebook, you can at facebook.com/manythingsdavemcrae. That's where I tend to post in the meantime and in between time when I'm not posting here. Link is in the description, as well as links to my Patreon, my IMDb, my Twitter, my merch store, and of course, my website. Whew, man. Oh, man. I get goosebumps when I think about Skeletor. Just, I lied. Let me know your thoughts. I'll talk to you guys soon. Cheers.